You only get one shot at this thing called life. And the clock is ticking whether you use it or waste it. I've seen too many people with dreams bigger than the sky end up buried in excuses. I've seen talent wasted, potential thrown away, and opportunities left to die because someone thought they had time. You don't have time, you have now, right now. And if you don't decide to do something with it, life will decide for you. Every single day is a gift. Don't spend it standing still. Don't spend it trying to please everyone. And don't spend it living somebody else's dream. You were put here for a reason. Don't waste your life trying to be comfortable. Waste it becoming unforgettable. When I was younger, I didn't understand the value of time. I thought days were endless, that I had all the hours in the world to figure out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. But life has a way of teaching you that time doesn't slow down for anyone. I've learned that every moment you waste is a moment you never get back. Money, opportunities, possessions, you can lose them and with enough effort gain them again. But time doesn't give refunds. Once it's gone forever. I remember the days when I'd sit around thinking about the things I wanted, imagining the life I could have. And then I realized imagining wasn't enough. Wishing wasn't enough. The clock was ticking while I was sitting still, and it hit me if I kept waiting for the right moment. The right moment would pass me by, and I'd still be sitting there, empty-handed. I started to look at time like currency. Every day was $1, every hour a coin, and I had to decide how to spend it. Some people spend it on comfort, scrolling through life without purpose. Others invested in their dreams, even when it cost them sleep, even when it cost them comfort, even when it cost them friendships. I made a choice. I wasn't going to waste mine. I wasn't going to wake up one day and realize I'd traded the only life I had for excuses and regret. So I started showing up earlier, staying later, putting in the work when nobody was watching. Because the truth is, those extra hours, those little sacrifices, they add up. They're the compound interest of life. You don't see the results immediately, but one day you wake up and realize you've built something no one can take from you. People sometimes ask me what separates those who succeed from those who don't. It's not luck and it's not talent. It's what you do with your time. I've met people with more talent than me, more resources, more connections, but they never learned how to use their time wisely. They thought the door would always be open. But life doesn't wait for you to make up your mind. Opportunities don't stand still. If you don't move, they move on without you. And I wasn't going to let that happen to me. I told myself, you've got to treat every day like it's your last chance. Because one day it will be. When I first started acting, there were days I wanted to quit. I wasn't booking roles, I wasn't making money, and I was tired. But I understood something. Quitting is easy. Wasting time is easy. But easy doesn't change you. Easy doesn't build you. I had to push past the frustration and the fear. I had to put my head down and keep working even when I didn't see the payoff. Because the payoff isn't instant. It's the result of days, months, years of choosing to use your time instead of wasting it. And that's why I can stand here today and tell you, without hesitation, that discipline with your time will change your life. I look back now and think about how different my life would be if I had spent my 20s chasing comfort instead of chasing purpose. If I had let myself believe I could put my dreams off until tomorrow, I wouldn't be standing here. I wouldn't have done the work. I wouldn't have had the roles. I wouldn't have had the chance to inspire anyone. You've got to make the decision now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, how are you going to spend the time you've been given? Are you going to spend it drifting, Or are you going to spend it building something worth remembering? Because the truth is, life doesn't care about your excuses, and it doesn't give you extra hours for good intentions. It rewards action, persistence, and focus. I live with a sense of urgency now. Not panic, not stress, but urgency. Because every day I wake up is a gift, and I don't intend to waste it. You can't control the years you've already lost, but you can control the ones you have left. And if you start right now, using your time like it's the most valuable thing you own, one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just live, you invested your life in something that mattered. And there's no better return than that. Discipline has been the anchor of my entire life, the difference between just having a dream and living in it. I've met people with more natural talent than me, more connections than me, more advantages than I ever had, but they never got where they wanted to go because they didn't have discipline. They couldn't show up when they didn't feel like it. They couldn't push through when things got boring, uncomfortable, or hard. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you decide to have. I decided early on that if I was going to make something of myself, I couldn't just rely on wanting it. I had to work for it when nobody was watching. I remember those early days in New York, struggling to pay rent, working small jobs just to keep the lights on, and still finding the time to study, rehearse, and perfect my craft. I wasn't doing it for applause. I was doing it because I knew my future depended on what I did in those quiet hours when no one cared. That's the part people don't see. The long nights, the early mornings, the constant sacrifices. You miss parties, you skip vacations, you walk away from short-term pleasures because you're building something long-term. I had to tell myself over and over again, don't get comfortable. Comfort is where dreams go to die. Discipline is a daily choice. It's waking up when the alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze. It's doing the extra repetition when your body says you're done. It's studying one more hour when your mind says it's enough. And I'll be honest, most days, I didn't feel like it. Most days, I didn't feel motivated. But I didn't wait on motivation, I relied on discipline. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fuel that keeps you going long after the spark is gone. When I started landing roles, the discipline didn't stop, it intensified. Success doesn't make things easier, it makes the stakes higher. I couldn't afford to slack off because I knew there was always someone out there hungry than me, ready to take my spot. Discipline meant I kept studying, even when I had already mastered a role. It meant I treated every rehearsal like it was opening night. It meant I stayed humble enough to know that I could always get better. I learned that discipline is also about what you say no to. I said no to people, to opportunities, to distractions that didn't align with my purpose. Every yes you give to something meaningless is a no you give to your dream. I wasn't afraid to be misunderstood, to be called too serious, too focused, too intense. Because I knew what I was building. People might laugh at your discipline now, but they'll respect the results later. And here's the truth, discipline doesn't just shape your work. It shapes your character. It teaches you patience, resilience, humility. It builds the mental toughness to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. When you live with discipline, you stop being controlled by your emotions. You stop letting your circumstances dictate your actions. You start living on your own terms. Even now, after all these years, I don't take discipline for granted. I treat it like a muscle. It needs to be worked every single day. I still show up early. I still prepare like I'm the underdog. I still remind myself that nothing is promised. Discipline is the reason I turned a dream into a career, the reason I've been able to stay in this game for decades. The reason I can look in the mirror and know I gave it everything I had. If you take anything from my life, let it be this: talent will get you noticed, but discipline will make you unforgettable. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start. Start with what you have, where you are, and let discipline take you where motivation can't. The day you learn to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not, is the day you stop chasing success and start living it. When I was coming up, I realized something very early. Your environment will either feed your fire or pour water on it. The people you choose to spend your time with are not just companions. They're architects of your future. I've seen it in my own life. There were seasons when I was surrounded by people who didn't share my drive, my hunger, my vision. And in those moments, I could feel my energy slipping, my focus getting blurred. That's when I learned if I wanted to go where I was headed, I needed to be intentional about who walked beside me. I couldn't afford to have people in my life who were content standing still, because I wasn't built to stay in one place. You have to understand something. Dreams are fragile in their early stages. They're like seedlings. If you plant them in bad soil, they won't grow. And people are the soil. You can have the most incredible idea, the most unstoppable work ethic. But if you keep planting yourself around negativity, around people who don't believe, you'll start doubting yourself. I've been there. I've been in rooms where every time I spoke my vision out loud, someone had a reason why it wouldn't work. And if you're not careful, those voices will start sounding like your own. That's why I made a decision. I was going to surround myself with people who not only wanted to see me win, but who were willing to challenge me to be better. People who had their own goals, their own discipline, their own fire, because energy is contagious. I remember when I first started acting, there were guys I knew who were more talented than me, no doubt about it. But they wasted their nights on things that took them further from their dreams. They surrounded themselves with people who were satisfied with talking about what they were going to do instead of actually doing it. I chose differently. I chose to be around people who were working, creating, improving. When I wasn't on stage, I was around people who inspired me to stay sharp. And it wasn't always comfortable. Sometimes they would call me out, tell me I wasn't giving my best, push me harder than I wanted to be pushed. But that's the kind of people you need. Those who won't let you settle for average when you're capable of greatness. It's not about cutting people off cold just because they're not where you are. It's about protecting your vision. There's a difference between a friend who supports you and one who secretly resents you for trying to grow. I learned to pay attention to that. I learned to notice how I felt after spending time with someone. Did I feel lighter, more motivated, ready to work? Or did I feel drained, doubtful, and distracted? That's how you know. Because the truth is, you can't waste your life keeping company with people who have no intention of building theirs. And listen, it works both ways. You have to be that kind of person too. You can't expect to attract purpose-driven people if you're not living with purpose yourself. I had to ask myself, am I the type of man who lifts others up, who pushes them to be better, who celebrates their wins without jealousy? Because when you are that kind of person, you'll start to naturally connect with others who share that same energy. And when you're surrounded by people who want to win, who aren't afraid of hard work, who believe that the impossible is just something they haven't achieved yet, you'll find yourself growing faster, working harder, and seeing opportunities you wouldn't have seen alone. Your circle is your mirror. Look around you. If you see people who are driven, focused, disciplined, you'll see that in yourself. If you see people who waste their days, who make excuses, who treat life like it's something they can restart tomorrow. You'll eventually start doing the same. That's why I say this with everything in me: protect your circle. Because who you spend your time with will either help you make the most of your life or help you waste it. Faith is the foundation that has carried me through every season of my life, the anchor that kept me steady when storms came. And believe me, the storms came. Hollywood can be a place where people lose themselves. You can have all the lights, all the attention, all the applause, and still go home feeling empty. I've seen people at the top of their careers spiral into self-destruction because they built their lives on things that don't last: fame, money, recognition. But from the very beginning, I knew I needed something deeper. I knew I couldn't rely on the world to define me, because the same world that lifts you up will tear you down the moment you slip. My faith taught me that my worth didn't come from awards or headlines. It came from God. It came from living a life that meant something beyond my own name. When I was young, my mother made sure I understood that I was here for a reason, that my life had purpose even when I couldn't see it yet. She used to tell me, "Denzel, man gives you applause, but God gives you direction." I didn't fully understand it back then, but over the years, I've lived it. I've learned that if you don't have a moral compass, if you don't have principles, you refuse to compromise, the world will pull you in every direction until you forget who you are. And once you lose who you are, it doesn't matter what you've achieved. You've already lost everything. Faith isn't just about going to church on Sunday or praying when things are bad. Faith is what kept me disciplined when no one was watching. Faith is what helped me say no to roles that didn't align with my values, even if they paid more. Faith is what reminded me that my career was not just about me, but about using my platform to tell stories that inspire, stories that bring truth, stories that mean something. And sometimes that meant turning down opportunities that looked good on paper, but have left me feeling empty inside. There were moments in my life where I didn't know what was next. Roles stopped coming, doors closed. And in those quiet seasons, it's easy to doubt yourself. It's easy to think maybe you've peaked, maybe you've been forgotten, but my faith reminded me that God's timing is never late. The right opportunity, the right moment, the right blessing, those things come when you're ready, not when you're desperate. I've learned to trust that process, even when it's hard, even when patience feels like the heaviest weight to carry. Hollywood will tell you you're only as good as your last movie, that your value is in your numbers, your box office, your popularity. But my faith told me otherwise. It told me that my value was in how I treated people when the cameras weren't on. It told me that my real legacy would not be in the awards on my shelf, but in the lives I touched, the people I inspired, the young men and women who saw my journey and believed they could dream bigger for themselves. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but my faith has been the voice that pulls me back, that says, stay grounded. Remember who you are and whose you are. Without that, it's too easy to let ego run your life. Ego will tell you that you're untouchable, that you don't need help, that you've made yourself. Faith humbles you. It reminds you that every talent, every opportunity, every ounce of success you've had is a gift, and gifts are meant to be used for a greater purpose. When I look back at my journey, I know without a doubt that faith didn't just help me survive. It helped me build. It built my character. It built my resilience. It built my vision for what I want my life to stand for. It taught me that success without integrity is failure in disguise. And it taught me that no matter how high I climb, I must always bow my head in gratitude. That's why I tell people, don't just chase the dream, Protect your soul while you're chasing it. Fame fades, money disappears, but faith will carry you through every season of your life. And when it's all said and done, I'd rather be remembered as a man who stood on truth than a man who stood in the spotlight. When I think about life, I don't think about how many years I can live. I think about how many lives I can touch while I'm here. Because here's the truth. You can live 90 years and still not leave a mark. Or you can live 30 years and change the world. It's not about the length of your life, it's about the depth. I've seen people who were given everything, money, fame, resources, and still, when they were gone, no one remembered them for anything good. I told myself a long time ago, I don't just want to be remembered for my movies. I don't want people to just say, he was a great actor. No, I want them to say, made me believe in myself. He pushed me to chase my dreams. He gave something to the world that didn't die with him. That's a legacy. See, a legacy is not built overnight. It's built in the way you live every single day. It's in the choices you make when no one is watching. It's in the times you could have taken the easy way out, but you didn't. It's in the way you treat people who can't do anything for you. That's what lasts. Not the awards, not the applause. Those speeches, the headlines, the spotlight, it all gets quiet one day. But the seeds you plant in people's hearts, the inspiration you leave behind, that's eternal. I learned this from my parents, who didn't have a lot of money, but had an abundance of values. My mother would tell me, Denzel, you can't take a U-Haul to the cemetery. And she was right. You can't take your house, your cars, your clothes with you. All you take is the impact you've had. So I made a decision when my time is up. I want to leave this place a little better than I found it. I want to pour out everything I've been given, my talent, my lessons, my experiences, so that nothing is wasted. The truth is, you don't know who's watching you. You don't know who's being inspired just by seeing you keep going. Sometimes you might feel like no one notices your effort, like no one cares, but there's someone out there who's holding on because you showed them it was possible. That's why I can't afford to live small, can't afford to quit when it's hard. My life is not just mine. It's connected to people I'll never meet. I've walked into rooms where I felt like I didn't belong, but I reminded myself, if I can break through this barrier, maybe someone else can walk through the door without fear. I've taken roles not because they were easy, but because they had something to say, something that could shift the way people think. And even off screen, I've tried to live in a way that says to the next generation, you can stand tall, you can have faith, you can make it even if you started with nothing. When you think about your own life, ask yourself, what am I leaving behind? When your name comes up years from now, will people smile because of how you treated them? Will they tell stories about how you encouraged them when they were ready to give up? Will there be something you built, something you taught, something you gave that's still alive long after you're gone? Or will the world not even notice you were here? That's why every day I wake up with purpose. I'm not waiting for a perfect moment to do something meaningful. I'm doing it now, in the small ways and the big ways. Because if I waste my life chasing comfort, I'll die with regrets. But if I spend my life giving my best, I'll leave something that outlives me. And that's the point. You're not here just to exist. You're here to matter. So live in a way that when you're gone, the world can't forget you. That's how you make sure your life is never wasted.